Williams from Left Man Production Squared, and we're here this afternoon. I guess it's afternoon. It's 1 o'clock. Here today to do some more recording for our 19th developers blog. And since the last time that I recorded, a couple things have changed. I got Visual Studio 2015 for the Community Edition because I now have the Unreal Engine 4, and I've been messing around with it, so starting to get into that now. Not sure if I'll have stuff for this update or not, but we'll see. I'll show you that a bit later. Excuse me. But first, let's go ahead and look at some of the stuff I've done with the code, and also with the database. Now, if you remember, I was talking about moving the settings file into a settings table, and I've started doing that. So it's just a basic 4-field table. You got the ID, the setting key, so the name of the setting that'll be identified by, setting value, and then the description. Oh man, excuse me. So the description field is just a field that allows me to put in some text, tell you what the setting is, what it does, and maybe some other notes. So I've already got some stuff in here. I decided to start with the most basic settings, which are the difficulty settings. 0.6 will have difficulty settings now, so there'll be the choice of what difficulty to use. And we've got 4 settings right now. So we got easy, moderate, hard, and realistic. Actually, no. Easy, moderate, hard, extreme, and realistic. So, before, if you remember, I said I wanted to try and stay away from, giving AIs, extra stuff. Well, I'm kind of edging back off of that a bit. Just a little bit. And these are all going to be editable, so if you want to have something that's more level, you can do that. But so, for easy, you'll do more damage to the enemy ships than they'll do to you. And really, the one place where it's going to be like what I was talking about, where it's level, is realistic. So, in the realistic difficulty mode, enemies and yourself, your allies, whatever, will take, the same amount of damage. And actually, this shouldn't say, enemy and player. It should say enemy and enemy and AI or something. So essentially, this is how it'll work. The N represents, well, yeah. So maybe I just break these down instead of in and out. We'll just have it say in, or just basic no out or in, just shield damage, hull damage, armor damage. However, doing that means that everything is the same, and I only want everything to be the same on realistic. So, okay, so yeah, out is going to be for your outgoing damage, or your allies' outgoing damage. And in is going to be damage coming to you or your allies from the enemy. Now, the reason I'm getting kind of hung up on this is because generally what you want to do is if you make a setting or something that applies to an NPC, you want it to apply to all NPCs equally. Now, with how this is set up, only NPCs that are allied with you in a battle will have the out and in, the out values and the in values. The enemies you're fighting against will have... Yeah, that's not gonna work right, is it? Huh. Okay, so visualize it like this. Out damage is going to be changed to a NPC damage, and in damage is going to be player damage. So, these are what NPCs will be damaged as, so that includes your allies. And in is what you'll take in damage from any NPC. That's how we'll do it. I'll make a note of that we need to change that. So, settings change for D rating. Out becomes NPC. In becomes man. Ugh, excuse me. Felt that one coming. Alright, so setting OV settings changes. Okay, so that's how that'll go. And then in realistic it'll be the same for everyone. So in realistic though also it's also broken down by the type of damage. So shields will take only 75% of the damage total done. Armor will take 1.25 times the damage, and hull will take twice the damage that's actually done. And I think this is more realistic because, you know, shields will block a lot of energy and a lot of momentum and things. Armor is there to protect the hull from getting too damaged, and then once all that is, the shields and armor are gone, the hull's just going to be, you know, paper thin, basically. So it's going to take the most damage. So I think that's probably a good spread. Of course, all these are editable, so they can be easily changed in and out without too much difficulty. So we have the difficulty setting as well, and that's a common delimited list, so if you want to add new ones, you can, but you'll need to add another 6 records, 6 records to this table for those difficulty settings. And there will be also other settings other than these related to the difficulty. These are just the ones that I got in right now. Something like scrap yield from wrecked ships when you destroy them. You know, ore amounts and things like that. That'll be based on the difficulty. And let's have the ship class types. So this is the main class types, and actually let me remove please use in place of spaces. Okay. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to back away from every instance of any place where we need to have some sort of ID range for an item. Like, for example, if you remember in the settings file, we have all these ID ranges, like ship ID range and, you know, weapon ID range. I'm trying to get rid of these because they're just, it's going to be too annoying. And instead, moving towards a system that's less about defining ranges and more about looking up stuff from tables based on the type, the class, and the subclass. So a lot of these ranges are going away for items. Now, the place where they won't be going away, and probably most annoyingly to modders and people watching this video who are planning to do some modding or are interested in the modding system, is this stuff, like the planet range size ranges. This is because these values are used for conditional statements and generating random kind of randomness within the planets, differentiating them. So these have to be still like this, just so that that part of the RG is, you know, modifiable and changeable and can be worked with. But things like, you know, the weapon ranges, ID ranges and whatnot, weapon types, all that stuff is going away. So, well, types maybe not, because we still need to have a list of types that need to be used for creating queries with. So there probably still will be a list of types, but it won't, you know, correspond to anything. It's just data for the game to ingest and use. Like before we had this, and this was linked up to like that list of ship IDs. That's not going to happen anymore. Instead, the ships will be identified by the class and then probably also subclass. So back to the settings here. Let's say that let me go ahead and add a setting so you can just kind of see the process. So let's say we want to add a new setting for easy, the easy difficulty. So I'm just going to go add a new record. You can do it either through this or through the query, the SQL window here, but it's somewhat easier to do it this way because you don't have to worry about typing all that stuff out. So we have our setting key, which we're going to call which we are going to call who's calling? I have no clue. They can go sawed off. So we're going to call it, again, I'm waiting for it to stop ringing now. Okay. So, we're going to call it something like, we'll say scrap yield, since we were talking about that earlier. And now, underscore easy. And whatever your setting is for difficulties, you have to suffix it with an underscore, then their difficulty name. So the setting value will be, for easy, 2.5. So this means that for any scrap you would get from a destroyed ship when you're salvaging it, you'll get 2.5 times as much as you would normally get in modern. So for the description, we want to say difficulty. Even though it says it there already, I'm going to put it here anyway. Then setting, this is going to be your description of what the setting does. So, sets amount of or actually, let's say scrap yield. Scrap yield. And then the modifier, which is the value. And this is just the default value. So if you change it to something else, and you want to change it back to whatever it was by default, then you have this reference here. So 2.5 default. So I'm going to put a description here. This setting allows you to modify the amount of scrap you can. Scrap a player will receive. I think that's how you spell receive. From a ship. A wrecked ship, we'll say. So salvaged amount of resources times modifier. And we'll just give an example real quick. So salvaged 20 draconic. Setting makes this. So what is that? 20 times 2.5 is like going to be 40 something. Okay, never mind, it's 50. Setting modifier makes this 50 draconic. So that's essentially how you would add a setting, like for a new difficulty level. So you would do scrap yield underscore your difficulty, then the value. So let's say you wanted to do like a nightmare one. So you would add nightmare to this list. Then you would say scrap underscore yield underscore nightmare, then like 0.1 or something. And that way would give you a tenth of what you would normally get. So instead of 20, you would get 2. I think that's a tenth of 20. Yeah. So just so you know, all the settings value field is a float, well, real, but it'll be turned into a float in the game. So just keep that in mind, that any setting you make can be done like this as a percentage or as a full value. Like we have these 2s and 1s. In some cases it'll apply as a float. Other times it'll just be like, you know, if it's well, either way it'll be a float. It'll be applied whatever way it is. Doesn't really matter, I guess. If you put a 2, it'll be a 2 applied that way. If you put a 0.75, it'll be applied more like a percentage of a total value. So it's a little more modular that way. Now, let's see. I don't think I've done anything in terms of really adding anything new into the database. I've actually restructured how the equipment table is set up. And I'm in the process of redoing the data for it because some stuff has to be taken out. I did start adding some CPUs, though. So we got a few CPUs in here. The MQ3X2, Computrix MK1, and the HAC1. HAC stands for Hydro Analyzer Chip. So we got some stuff already being added here. So let's head over to VS 2015. And one thing new that I'm doing in this I guess I never actually opened the project. Ah, okay. No, yeah. One thing I'm doing is 2015 community has Git in it. And for those of you who don't know what Git is, it's essentially like a software versioning repository kind of thing that's become really popular, and it allows you to more easily track changes, roll back changes, and keep track of who's changed what, and create branches, and it's just really awesome way to manage your coding. it's more for projects with multiple people on them, but I'm using it anyway because it's better that way. I can keep a master version of the code and a working version of the code, so that if I really screw something up, or if the files on my system get corrupted, I can re-download the master or the working versions and continue. So yeah, actually this should be, I'll try to keep everything the same. Yeah, I had to name it this way because how I set this up is that this is actually a Git repository, this project folder. So everything that's in here will get uploaded to Git, and anything downloaded will get downloaded into here, so that my branches will just be automatically synced properly. Oh, prod. Okay, that's why. So it's not all files. That's fine. So we got our files here. So to get to the Git portion, you have to come over here to the Team Explorer, and if you have a Git account set up and you've set this up correctly, which is a pain in the ass, I might admit. I might add sometime in some ways, then you are able to see this menu here. So when I talk about the master version and the working version, I'm talking about branches, or essentially a version of code. So the master branch is the original version of the code that I uploaded last night, and the working branch is the version I'm actively working on. And that'll then merge into the master branch once I'm done doing a certain amount of work. So if we go to the changes here, you can see that it has some changes that are new. So I've renamed that file, so that's new, and I've changed some stuff in the SQLite database, which also shows up in here, which is nice. So let's say that I sit back. Let's say that I go to my branches, and you can see now I'm on my working branch. If I switch over to the master branch, can't switch because okay. So I have changes I need to commit to the working branch, so I can't change it. Okay, that's fine. So I guess we'll go ahead and do the changes then. So I'll say renamed project file for continuity, I guess. So a commit comment is just something stating what you changed in that particular commit. And all a commit is you're essentially approving changes to be uploaded to your branch that you're on currently. In this case, the working branch. So when I click commit, it's going to save my changes to the Git repository for my working branch. So I hit commit, it'll say commit created locally. Then we'll need to sync the local repository files with the remote files on Git. On GitHub, I should say. So you can either click on this sync, or if you come back to here, you can click on sync. And so we have one outgoing commit, and we got multiple commits too. So like if I go in and say, okay, I don't want to commit yet because it's only one. I want to push it because it's only one commit. So say I want to come in here and let's do a change to the data placeholder. Let's say I want to add in some of the stuff from the settings. So settings, we want to create a class, a settings class that we'll create a vector to hold the setting data, and then that'll be loaded into a class. So let's say we created one. Let's see. So it'll be string key or sk name, s key. So Let's say set key, just so it's not confused with the ship struct. Setting key value. Float set val setting value. Setting value, I guess we'll say. We don't need the other stuff, just those two. So now setting float val, we'll say. Now here's the thing. Actually, the value is a string, isn't it? In the database. Now I'm thinking about it. Settings, varchar, yeah. So it'll actually be, the value will be cast into a particular type during the importing process through the database class. So float value int set I value. We'll do a long. So I64 val setting int 64 value. That should be val, not value. What other types of values would we be importing? Strings, I guess, yeah. String set s value. I think that's all the value types we would have. So we're going to save that. Now I'm going to go create, well, we have the OV class, or namespace, right? OV, not OV, it's G global vars. So instead of global vars, because we're not going to be using boost anymore, now that we're doing this, which is nice because I don't have to worry about it. I'm still going to keep this global vars, but we're just going to remove it from the project, so remove. Because I might want to keep that in case we need it for some other reason somewhere down the line. And instead we're going to pending edit. Yeah, okay. Instead, we're going to create a new header and a new class called settings. So settings header file. Technically, it's supposed to be HPP, but they use .h for in Visual Studio for some reason. I don't know. So HPP is a C++ header file, but whatever. So we have this settings.h add. So don't need that. We want fndef settings underscore h define include string. Yes or no on these? I always have the hardest time remembering if it's no. There isn't. Okay, that works. So no semicolon settings. Yeah, include vector. Well, would we have a vector? Yes. In case we have like the vector of ship names or something. So vector of a vector. Yeah, I guess so. A vector with a vector in it. Well, so I think then we need using std string using std vector. It's always good not to use namespace. I mean, I could use it now because I'm only using standard now instead of boost as well, but still. So class settings, we'll call it setting. I'll rename it too. Class setting. So public setting. So I have string name and name and value, and then what we'll do is we'll have a bunch of these. So we'll have one for string, one for int, one for floats, one for long, and was that all of them? Int, float, long, string. What about double? Would we ever need a double? I don't think so. Float is what we're going to be using that for. So that should be fine. So essentially we have a constructor for each different type. Oh, interesting. So I created the settings CPP file automatically. So I come down here, it should be settings. Yep, cool. That's awesome. Interesting, it's got some extra space here for something. So 15 seems to be pretty nice actually. I haven't used it that much, so I'm just discovering some of these things as we go along. It's really nice they had a get. Before they just had that team that whatever it is that they have that Microsoft provided. It's like Git, except it's Microsoft's version of it, which was stupid. Git is 10 times better than what Microsoft did with that. It's much easier to use once you understand the process. Although setting it up, like I said, can be a pain. So we got the setting for int val. Let's go back to our header file. Did I not open it? Okay, there we go. I guess it didn't. So, let's go ahead and close the peak here. Then I'm going to also go in here. I'm going to do a private. And we want to say, so we want to have a vector. Well, let's first go string setting name, just so we know how to identify what the setting is. So it'll be like ship classes or something like that. Player, shield damage, easy, that kind of thing. And then we're going to have maybe it will be more generic than that. So we'll have a setting, and it'll just be difficulty player. It'll just be player shield damage, and then it'll be defined that way, I guess. Easy will be for querying it from the database. But once inside the game, the value is it'll be just the setting minus the underscore bit minus underscore name, setting difficulty name, then the value for it. So name, then we'll say int set val, set ival, int set or float. String set and vector. Vector of, well, it could be a vector of anything though, couldn't it? True. You could have a vector of ends, a vector of floats, vector of strings. Vector of classes. So what do we want to limit this to? So I think we have to make a vector for each type of thing. And what we'll do is we'll add a third. So bool is vector. B is vector. B is vect, I guess. So that we can tell if it's supposed to be loaded into a vector or not. So vector of string. Vector int set vi val vector float set vf val and vector of long set vl, or I guess I64 val. And then end if. Close that if and def statement. So we've got all of our stuff here. Save it. And I won't do the... Oh, that's where we need to add this. So now, if I go back to Team Explorer, changes, we now have 4 changes. So we got changes to the VCX project file and filters, as well as a settings.h add. There's an untracked file, which we're going to have to add. So when you create a new file, or rather I should say when when Visual Studio creates a file, it doesn't automatically get tracked, but when you create it yourself, it does. For some reason, I'm not sure. But it is getting added automatically here. But I guess if the system does it for you, then it doesn't. So basically an untracked file is a file that is no longer being tracked by Git. So it won't, it won't do anything with it. So we want to say add all, and it will add that up here, as you can see. Now, maybe I'll have to go to the... Well, this is the local branch. So we have this new change, set of changes here. So we're going to create a new commit for it. So the commit comment's going to say added settings class altered data placeholder to add settings struct removed global there's namespace from project. And we're going to just do a commit. You can also do a commit with a push or a sync, but we're just going to do a commit. Yes, we're going to save those and do the commits. So now if we go back here again, we go to sync. We now have 2 outgoing commits to push. And let's say now that, just for the heck of it, well, no, I guess I can show that later, because there's a whole conflict merge thing. So if somebody else is working on the same project you are, they alter a file that you're working on, and they make a commit and push it to the branch before you do yours, you'll have a conflict when you try to merge, when you try to push your commits, because the file will be different, and it'll ask you how you want to change or how you want to merge it, and I'll show you how that works later on some other time. But so what we're going to do is we're going to push these commits, or we're going to send these commits, which have those changes that we made, to the working branch. So let me go to the branch here. It's going to take too long. So this is GitHub now that we're looking at. So let's go to just the main repository here. So we've got commits, branches, releases, and contributors. So this is just how many commits have been done for the project as a whole, the number of branches, the releases, and how many people are contributing. So I'm the only one contributing, so one contributor. So you can see number of commits. Branches. So here we have our default branch, which is a master branch, and my branch that I created, which is working branch. And you can see we have this value here, which is commits ahead of master or behind master. So this just means that the master branch the working branch has 2 commits that the master branch doesn't. Now, if this value over here was greater than 0, that would mean that the master branch had commits that my working branch didn't. So that would mean that there's another branch being worked on, and that branch's changes were merged with the master branch, and I don't have those commits, or those changes, so I'd have to pull a version of the master branch and update it for my branch. It's kind of complicated, but so say somebody else has another branch, they change something in the database class, and they commit that change to their branch and their branch to master. So the master now has those database changes, but my branch doesn't because that was from a different branch. So in order to update my branch, I would have to create a pull request on master, which means I am pulling down the master branch files, and by doing that, it would merge those files with my working branch, because my working branch is defined in the same folder. Now, the problem with this is that if you also have changes in the database file, then you're going to have a conflict, which you'll have to then deal with, because it'll ask you which changes you want to keep or you want to merge in, and if there's changes on the same line, it'll ask you which changes you want to keep, which file should overwrite which one, and you'll have to make the decision of that or figure out a way to do it so that you don't overwrite the changes. And then that'll allow you to have the most recent master branch on your working branch, and then you can merge your changes into the master branch properly. And once you do the master branch download into your working branch, this will go back down to 0. Now, what I want to do is we're going to go ahead and do the push for these 2 commits. So pushing to the current branch, which is working, so that's done. Now if I come back over and reload, this will say 4 commits behind. Yeah. Or 4 commits ahead of master. So let's say I want to update my master branch now. So I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to say actions. Rather, we're going to go back to home here, and I'm going to go to branches, and I'm going to say merge. So I want to merge my working branch okay, cancel. So I'm going to go to first branches, and I want to say working, or I guess remote origin working, master. Ah, okay. Interesting. So that's kind of annoying. Oh, OVDB, I have it open. That's right, okay, close. Really? Still? So data placeholder. Ah. Okay, so what's going on here? Documents. Projects. Ah. So this is the master branch now. And we've got changes that we need to do for it. So, yeah. Go back here. So, actually, it says branch is working. Alright, let me go to... Let's go back to home. I want to make a pull request. Okay, create a pull request. Working. Okay, so I want to resync. Okay, let's go to changes. I want to say exclude all. Let's go back to the home. Let's go to branches. Damn. What is going on? Okay, so we have changes. For some reason, we have changes. say update commit sync push. Alright, now we should be able to change the branch. Alright, so now I'm working on my master. So now I want to merge my master, merge from working, origin working, into current branch. So now you can see my data holder file has these changes in it now. Before it didn't. So if we go back to home, I go to changes, we see a ton of changes. So include, and include. So before this was just this imported here, and we didn't have anything else. Now we got all the changes here. We're adding in these other files. If I go over to my master branch, and I open up this, then we go to data placeholder. You will see that in here we have this. Now if I go and then we commit these changes, so we'll say merging 6 commits and I might also add in like the commit numbers or something, but I'm not going to for this one. And we'll go ahead and do this commit. So now we come back over here to sync, and I want to push these commits. Into master. Now if we go back, you will see that we now have our updated file here. And if we go back to branches, you'll see now that we have working being 1 commit behind master because I think there's one change that wasn't included in this stuff. So we're going to do a new pull request. So the only commit that is there is that we have this commit. So there are no changed files. The changes are the same, but we have this one commit that's still there. So we're just going to create the pull request. And now if we go back to our branches, you probably should have done it this way for the master to work. Yeah. Well, now see, this is one ahead of master. Damn. So I'll have to see how we do this properly so that we actually do the commits into it without having, you know, an extra commit ahead of the branch you are migrating to. But yeah, so that's how Git works, more or less. You can also fork, which means you create a new copy of the existing thing. Oh, it's me I'm watching it, okay. But it's a really nice way just to keep track of changes and whatnot. So, and also when you switch between branches, you have different versions of the files. So, essentially we'll change out the file versions too. So let's say that in my working version, we just rename this to setS. If I switch to my master versions, so go file, open, there's some projects, and I look at that file over here. I guess it's still here. Interesting. So I guess it doesn't quite work the same as the setup they have at my work does, because they're using Git, Flow, Source Tree, and Stash, which actually has Git bucket now. And I guess the process works a bit differently because with that, it's able to load in different branch versions. So I thought that'd be something interesting that I can look at putting on my system, because it'd be nice to have different versions of files for different branches. But as is right now, the other branch is stored, the master is stored on GitHub, so I can get them from there if I wanted to. So that's all I'm going to do for the coding. Let's quickly bugger over to audio. I've actually been working on the audio a lot lately, and the reason for that is because I need to recreate most of the stuff I've done before, because it's no longer compatible, won't open up properly in my new version of FL Studio because the plugins are different and whatnot. So I'm just recreating it. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at the trailer for the game trailer music background track. And I will just show you what I have done so far for that. It doesn't have any of the retouching in terms of the volume of different instruments, so you'll just have to bear with that. It's basically just I've gotten so far as adding in the tracks and doing the notes and whatnot. None of the additional stuff after that. And this is being redone using the East-West you see the box right there, I guess. Complete Composer Collection Pro 4. Man, this is taking a while to load. Actually, all the stuff comes loaded on a hard drive, 1 terabyte hard drive. Actually, it's a 6 terabyte hard drive. Which only has about 100 and something gigabytes free, I think. Maybe even less, I don't even know. Yeah, 163 gigs free. Oh no, it's 1.8 terabytes. Everyone, I thought it was 6. I don't know why. So yeah, it's still got a chunk of files there. It was like 11 or 12 different things that I chose for that. So we have violin, contrabassoon, bassoon, trombone, which I'm actually not using at the moment. It's muted, as you can see. Woodblock, vocals, and French horn and tuba sections, as well as trumpets. So here is what I have so far. It sounds actually pretty. It sounds like pretty much like it was before, except a little more better quality, and also a little bit different in terms of how I worked with the wood blocks. I think this